In this episode of That Was the News Then, we take a look back at one of Long Island's most notorious serial killers. Leaving behind a trail of bodies, he managed to evade capture for years until a simple mistake led police to him. This is what some of the actual news coverage looked like back then of the capture and trial of Long Island serial killer Joel Rifkin. In 1993, a routine traffic stop would lead to the capture of New York's most prolific serial killer, Joel Rifkin, and end his murderous rampage.
And it is a night when police in Long Island are busy trying to match known murders with one man's stunning and bizarre confession. He may be a serial killer responsible for more than a dozen murders. We have team coverage for you from Jeff Weiser in East Meadow. He's at the man's house, but we start with Kyung Yoon. She's at State Police Headquarters in Farmingdale. Kyung?
John, police are investigating at least 17 murders in connection with 34-year-old Joel Rifkin of East Meadow. Now, after what started as a routine traffic stop by two state troopers and ended with a gruesome discovery.
During the arrest of Rifkin, a strong odor came from the back of the vehicle. The troopers investigated and discovered the body of the white female wrapped in a tarp.
The badly decomposed body was in the back seat of Rifkin's pickup truck. Police say he was on his way to dispose of the body at Republic Airport in Farmingdale when state troopers tried to pull him over for driving without license plates. Rifkin would not stop and led the troopers on a 3 to 4 mile chase until he crashed into a light pole in Mineola. Police arrested Rifkin and charged him with second-degree murder.
The investigation reveals that Rifkin patronizes prostitutes in New York City. We believe the unidentified female is such. He patronized her, and then he killed her.
And police say the common thread running through among all the victims is that they are all young, they are white, they're female, and they are prostitutes working out of New York City. And the police say they may very well have a serial killer on their hands. John?
Well, Kyung, so far, have they made any definite connections to any other killings?
Well, apart from the body that was found in the back of his pickup truck, police have been able to link Rifkin with at least one other body that was found. It's believed to be a prostitute. It was found in Suffolk County last month, in May. And apart from that, they are investigating 15 other unsolved murders involving prostitutes. They think that they do have the murderer on their hands, but they are still investigating.
All right, thanks, Kim. Now let's go to Jeff Weiser. He's in East Meadow at Joel Rifkin's house. Jeff?
That's right, John. Police have been here at the Rifkin residence in East Meadow since early this morning. They are waiting for a search warrant so they can search the premises. Now, some neighbors seem to think that police are about to go in the backyard and start digging up the backyard. That does not seem evident. A detective a little while ago told me that we're not digging up anything, but this whole scene has certainly shaken up this neighborhood.
I still can't believe it. If that's true, it's shocking. That's
the prevailing reaction from residents here in Lakeville Estates, normally a quiet middle-class residential community in East Meadow. But the solitude has been shattered by the news that a neighbor is the prime suspect in an unthinkable crime. Joel Rifkin is a 1978 graduate of East Meadow High School. Alan Whitlock went to school with Rifkin.
I remember, like, quiet. He was very into audio work, stereo equipment.
What kind of things did you guys do together?
We used to listen to music, read about all kinds of new equipment, stereo equipment, video equipment, stuff like that.
Rifkin's 71-year-old mother is in the house as police await a search warrant. Friends who know her have words of sympathy for the woman who they'd see gardening on her front lawn.
Our heart goes out to a mother who is just an ordinary person, just like us, who is, if it's true, going to end up with a ghastly tragedy.
A little while ago, I had a chance to take a look at Joel Rifkin's high school yearbook. It does not paint the picture of a murderer. Some of the activities listed include cross-country, winter track, and debating. Something certainly does not seem to fit, John. Reporting live from East Meadow, this is Jeff Weiser, Fox News.
The shock continued as more bodies are discovered and believed to be victims of Joel Rifkin, including a body found near JFK Airport.
Now there are 8. The trail of bodies left behind by a self-proclaimed serial killer continues to grow. Tonight, a new twist. One of the women Joel Rifkin allegedly killed last month in Southampton is not a prostitute. Bob O'Brien is standing by in Brooklyn right now. That's where the woman lived. Bob?
Well, John, now a second family here in the Park Slope section of Brooklyn has been devastated by the news that police believe one of their loved ones is among the victims of alleged serial killer Joel Rifkin. Yesterday, it was the family of Jenny Soto, whose body was found in the Bronx back in November. Tonight, the grieving is being done by the mother and two tiny children of Leah Evans, who had been missing since early spring. Back on May 9th, the decomposing and partially clothed body of 28-year-old Leah Evans was found in a remote area off Route 51 in the town of Southampton. Police are not yet sure how she was murdered, but they are now quite certain that she was murdered by serial killer suspect Joel Rifkin.
We do believe that, in fact, he is the one that killed her, but we don't know at this time how they came to encounter one another. That's subject to further investigation.
Leah Evans lived on Sterling Place in the Park Slope section of Brooklyn with her two young children and her mother. Susan Evans did not wish to discuss her daughter's murder as she led Leah's two children back inside their apartment building. Police say Leah Evans was definitely not a prostitute. Neighbor Charlene Rodriguez knew Leah Evans.
She asked me to babysit her little son. And so when she wanted to go out, too late, and she didn't have nobody to watch him. So I said, sure, I wouldn't mind, because she seemed nice.
Also in Southampton, Long Island on Tuesday, the skeletal remains of an unidentified woman were discovered about a mile from where Leah Evans' body was found. State police investigators now link Joel Rifkin to the murders of 8 women. The latest case added to that list is a body discovered in Cornwall, New York, back on October 1st of 1991. The woman's body had been tossed over a steep embankment in a wooded area, sometimes used as an illegal dumping place.
I believe it was a white female between the ages of 18 and 25 years old. And that is all that we have at this time.
Can you describe to us, was she close?
In New York City, including the skeletal remains of a woman discovered near Kennedy Airport Tuesday. But New York City Police Commissioner Raymond Kelly says 7 bodies found in New York City are believed to be Rifkin's victims. That would raise to 12 the number of murders linked to the serial killer suspect by 2 police departments.
We've now identified 7 bodies in New York City. 3 in 55-gallon drums, 1 in a steamer chest. We had a torso found in the last year, and we've also identified body parts as going along with that torso. We had the body that was found in Kennedy Airport yesterday, and we had Ms. Soto in the Bronx.
Wednesday afternoon, representatives of police departments in 3 states in the metropolitan area came to state police headquarters in Farmingdale, Long Island, to compare information on unsolved murders of women in their jurisdictions with evidence and information gathered on Joel Rifkin. After Joel Rifkin's arrest, he was talking to state police investigators for more than 12 hours, spinning his incredible horror story of 17 murders. And at no time during that time was his reported confession ever put on videotape, nor was a written statement made up for Rifkin to sign. State Police Captain Walter Heesh was asked if that fact will hurt the case against Rifkin when he goes to trial. He said he did not know. Live in Park Slope, Brooklyn, Bob O'Brien, Fox News. John, back to you.
The gruesome search for more victims of confessed serial killer Joel Rifkin is continuing right now on Westbury, Long Island. Our Eric Shawn is there. He has the latest. Eric, what can you tell us?
Well, Lynn, Joel Rifkin's killing toll may have climbed to 14 and is growing, but now the investigation has led to this landscaping business where Rifkin was a customer. Did unemployed landscaper and confessed serial killer Joel Rifkin stash more than plants at Kev's Landscaping on Long Island? State police have searched the barns and a yard he rented at the South Westbury business because they reportedly believe it's where Rifkin may have stored the bodies of 3 victims before he dumped them elsewhere. But Kev's owner says he only rented a small fenced-in lot to Rifkin 2 years ago for him to store equipment.
They just basically looked at the property to see if there's any digging going on. They want to bring a dog in to smell if there's any bodies.
He was hardly ever here. He parked the trailer and stuff in here, and that was it.
While police try to match the bodies with identities of those that Rifkin claims he killed, it turns out one of Rifkin's alleged victims was the daughter of a former city judge who was also reportedly a prostitute. The body of 28-year-old Leah Evans was found last month in Southampton. Her father, ex-civil court judge Lester Evans, ironically was criticized in 1984 for allowing a prostitute to sit with him at the bench. And Rifkin's latest alleged victim has been identified as 19-year-old Barbara Jones of Manhattan, whose body was found on a Hudson River pier in 1991. Rifkin's notoriety has caused his former landscaping landlord some business and a lot of heartache.
He's not really a landscaper. He's not a horticulturist, as was quoted. He's really a fly-by-night person who's doing side jobs.
Well, Rifkin may have caused at least more people to be killed, and authorities are searching for those bodies. But the owner of this business is angry at something else. Rifkin still owes him $600 from renting the space. Live in Westbury, Long Island, I'm Eric Shawn.
In June of 1993, Fox 5's Rosanna Scotto spoke to some of the families of the victims who shared their stories and heartache.
There are grieving families all over our area, undoubtedly more to be added to the list. It sure looks that way. Rosanna Scotto spent some time with two of those families whose lives will never be the same.
Venus Lopez is much wiser than her 12 years. She has to be. Venus was told her mother's killer may be serial killer Joel Rifkin. All this child knows is she was robbed of her mother.
I feel bad, you know. Every time I go to school, I see my friends' mothers, you know, parents and stuff. I feel bad, you know, I don't have my mother with me. They tell me, oh, where's your mom? And I can't say anything. It's hard.
Does this make it any easier?
No.
Anna Lopez is the latest face put on the skeletal remains of Rifkin's alleged victims. The 33-year-old mother of three was found far from her home in East New York, partially nude and dumped in Putnam County back in May of 1992. Her mother wants revenge.
To the media, the prostitutes, to us, our babies. He killed them. He had no pity for them. I had no pity for him. I want him to pay for what he did.
How would you like him to do that?
We don't have the death penalty. Shame. I want him to spend the rest of his life in jail, not in a hospital. This person is not crazy.
Margarita Gonzalez, the mother of Jenny Soto, also wants revenge. The 23-year-old's body was found dumped, partially clad, in the Bronx last November.
I hope they don't gonna let him go loose. I don't want him to come out. I hope they kill him.
Investigators are also looking to see if Rifkin was responsible for killing Laura Gossman. The 23-year-old does not fit his pattern. She was not a prostitute. Gossman was a college graduate who left her Queens home one morning headed to buy milk. A few days later, she was found dumped. Her mother keeps her picture in the front window, keeping her daughter's memory alive, reminding the world that her murder happened back in December of 1992 and remains unsolved.
It's nerve-wracking. I'm kind of hoping, you know, in one way that it is him, another way I'm hoping it's not.
Why not?
Because I guess I just can't, you know, come to terms that she died that way, in the hands of this maniac.
For Maria Alonso, the wait may be over to find her daughter Anna's killer, but there's still no peace.
He's an evil person. He got his kicks from killing poor innocent women.
Maria Alonso is hoping to bring together the other victims' mothers. She wants them all to go to court to let the judge know that their daughters may have been prostitutes, but they were precious to them and deserve justice. From Brooklyn, Rosanna Scotto, Fox News.
So who is Joel Rifkin?
And our team coverage continues now with a look into Rifkin's past. Eric Shawn is standing by at his home in East Meadow on Long Island. Eric.
Well, John, tonight Joel's mother and his sister remain secluded in the house behind me. They are not talking to the media. But to say that this neighborhood is still in shock is a vast understatement. They just cannot believe that the quiet, polite, shy young man that they know, who used to fix his vans right outside her in the street, could be one of America's most notorious serial killers. Who is Joel Rifkin? An unemployed landscaper by trade who seemed haunted by uncontrollable and unspeakable demons. Adopted by Bernard and Jean Rifkin of East Meadow, Long Island, he lived here with his 31-year-old adopted sister and widowed 71-year-old mother, who returned from her son's arraignment and walked by the creative beauty of his craft, the landscape flower garden on their front lawn that defies the barbaric acts for which Joel is now boasting to police.
He was a quiet guy. He really kept to himself. Just a couple of times I talked to him, you know, I'd stop by there, you know, walking on the way to the store, say hello to him.
I'm shocked. I never expected Joel to do anything like this.
In 1977, Michael Brown was a senior at East Meadow High School along with Rifkin, who suffered from learning disabilities, had trouble with reading and math, and seemed an outcast. Brown, still stunned, told me his pal never went out with women.
To the times I've known him since '74 up to present, I've not seen him with any ladies. We worked along with ladies in my job, but that's about as far as it went, no.
Rifkin's father was a trustee of the local library. There is a plaque in his honor, but his son never achieved recognition until now. Fox News has learned that Rifkin was employed as a temp worker by Dunhill Employment in Massapequa. No one here would talk about him, but until just a few months ago, Rifkin worked here at the Olympus Camera Company in Westbury. Even in high school, photography was a passion. But somewhere, it seems, he took up a much more sinister pastime that police believe has claimed many victims. Well, no one knows exactly what happened in Joel's past to apparently create a monster. The death of his father 6 years ago obviously took a toll, but it seems the hatred here, people just do not understand it now that their neighbor has been cast in a frightening role. Reporting live in East Meadow, Long Island, I'm Eric Shawn. John, back to you.
The case against Joel Rifkin was a strong one. Here's a look back at some of the times Rifkin appeared in court, including the day the killer fell asleep at his own trial.
Admitted serial killer Joel Rifkin was in a Long Island courtroom this morning. Mario Bosquez is in Mineola with the new development in that case. Mario.
Good afternoon, Lynn. Admitted serial killer Joel Rifkin did walk into the Nassau County Courthouse this morning, handcuffed and shackled, yet free to make a decision that he announced.
Mr. Rifkin, it's your desire to change attorneys at this time?
Yes.
And you want Mr. Soshnick and Mr. Lawrence to act as your attorneys in place of Mr. Sale?
Yes.
With that, Joel Rifkin handed over his case to co-counsels John Lawrence and Michael Shosnick of Mineola. They immediately asked that Rifkin's restraints be removed.
Your Honor, I would ask that my client's handcuffs and shackles be removed during the course of the proceedings. There's certainly sufficient security on hand, and to the extent that there are cameras here, I would indicate to the court that I sincerely believe that this is just one more activity that is going to result in further pretrial prejudice to my client.
Judge Wexner denied the request, pointing to the brevity of the proceedings and security reasons. So far, Rifkin has been connected to the deaths of 18 women, reportedly confessing to 16 murders after his June 28th arrests. Officers who pulled him over on driving violations found instead the body of 22-year-old Tiffany Bresciani of Manhattan. Rifkin has now pleaded not guilty. The new lawyers in the case say they'll order new psychological evaluations.
It was at the request of Mr. Rifkin, and as I said earlier, we were invited by Mr. Rifkin and his mother to meet with him at the correction facility.
Changing lawyers came about with my complete approval, okay? It wasn't just Joel, it was completely unanimous.
Rifkin's new attorneys say they were, quote, not privy to inside information as to why Rifkin did make the switch in lawyers at this point in his case. Meanwhile, the hearings are set to begin November the 8th. At the Nassau County Courthouse, I'm Mario Bosquez. One of Long Island's most sensational trials didn't seem that interesting to the defendant. Hyung Yoon says Joel Rifkin was dozing as his first murder trial gets underway.
Accused serial killer Joel Rifkin could hardly stay awake at his own murder trial, snoozing as his attorney made an impassioned opening statement to the jury of 7 men and 5 women.
The emphasis or the focus of this case is not whether Mr. Rifkin committed these crimes, but the effect which a major mental disease or defect had on his state of mind.
Defense attorney John Lawrence painted a portrait of a paranoid, tormented man who couldn't grasp the difference between right and wrong. But prosecutor Fred Klein described Rifkin as a calculating, sadistic killer who knew enough to methodically cover his tracks.
The case, ladies and gentlemen, is about a brutal, savage, murderous attack by this defendant sitting right there in front of you on a completely innocent, defenseless young woman by the name of Tiffany Bresciani. A woman who was killed because it satisfied Joel Rifkin's anger and his perverted sexual desires.
Rifkin is on trial for the murder of 22-year-old Tiffany Bresciani, whose partially decomposed body was discovered inside his pickup truck last June when state troopers pulled him over for driving without a rear license plate. Rifkin later confessed to killing 17 women, mostly prostitutes he picked up for sex and then strangled. Bresciani's mother was the prosecution's first witness.
What went through your mind when you saw him as you were sitting on the stand?
I just looked for a second. I have no hatred towards anyone, and that's how I taught Tiffany. And I hope that, I know that justice will reign.
Rifkin's case will hinge largely on the testimony of mental health experts. The defense has lined up a well-known Long Island psychologist who plans to testify that Rifkin had no control over his murderous actions. The prosecution plans to counter with a Californian psychiatrist who also testified in the trial of serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer. Reporting from the Nassau County Courthouse, I'm Kyung Yoon, Fox News.
The verdict for the man who admitted he was a serial killer didn't take long. Here's how the trial for Long Island serial killer Joel Rifkin came to a close.
Good evening. A jury on Long Island made quick work of Joel Rifkin's murder trial. It was his first, certainly though not the last, for a man who admits he's a serial killer. Linda Schmidt says the jurors never bought the argument that he's crazy.
Joel Rifkin had a blank stare on his face as the jury forewoman read the verdict.
As to count 1, murder in the second degree, what is your verdict?
Guilty.
As to count 2, reckless endangerment in the first degree, what is your verdict?
Guilty.
The jury deliberated just 3 hours, a surprisingly short amount of time, before finding Rifkin guilty and not insane when he murdered 22-year-old Tiffany Bresciani. The defense had maintained that Rifkin did not know what he was doing when he killed her.
It showed me that although they were very thorough in analyzing the facts that were presented to them, they didn't have any problems with any of the evidence, and they weren't fooled by any of Mr. Rifkin's efforts to manipulate the insanity defense.
With all the evidence that we had, there was no doubt about that he didn't know what he was doing. He definitely was aware of what he was actually doing.
The Assistant District Attorney did an excellent job, and he brought us through it, and we discussed those pieces, and we had all come up to the same conclusion.
The self-admitted serial killer has confessed to strangling 17 women, dismembering some, and having sex with the corpses. Rifkin admitted to murdering Iris Figueroa's daughter 2 years ago today.
I'm happy for it because he's not crazy. And we knew from the get-go that he was not crazy.
Margarita Gonzalez's sister was another victim.
I wanted to yell and scream, but I couldn't do that, you know. But I'm happy he got what he deserved.
During closing arguments, the defense tried to convince the jury that Rifkin is a paranoid schizophrenic who fantasized about strangling women.
Gave it our best shot, presented the evidence and the issues, and the jury didn't see it that way.
Rifkin will be sentenced next month. He faces a maximum of 25 years to life in prison for murdering Bresciani, the last of his many victims. In Mineola, Long Island, Linda Schmidt, Fox News.
And Joel Rifkin will be seeing a lot more courtrooms. While there's talk he killed 17 women, maybe more, he's been indicted for 7 murders. His next trial is in June in Suffolk County. He's also been indicted in Brooklyn, Queens, and the Bronx. That's where other bodies were found. So unless a lot of deals are made, it'll take years and hundreds of thousands of tax dollars to keep an admitted serial killer in jail for the rest of his life.
It was sentencing day for serial killer Joel Rifkin. He heard himself being called a killing machine. Then the judge let him have it. Kyung Yoon has more on Rifkin's day in court.
Joel Rifkin never showed a flicker of emotion as Nassau County Judge Ira Wexner handed down a maximum sentence for the murder of 22-year-old Tiffany Bresciani.
Although you allege that the brutal, senseless, and horrific murder of Tiffany Bresciani was the result of your being legally insane, a jury determined otherwise. Throughout the many weeks that you sat in my courtroom during the pretrial hearings and the trial, you never exhibited any feeling of remorse for your actions. There is no reason whatever why you should be sentenced to anything less than the maximum amount allowable under our law.
That's 25 years to life, plus another 2 1/3 to 7 years for a reckless endangerment conviction after leading state troopers on a wild car chase when they tried to pull him over last June for a missing license plate. It was then that police discovered Bresciani's decomposed body in the back of his pickup truck. Rifkin later confessed to killing 17 women, mostly prostitutes he had picked up for sex and then strangled. Inside the courtroom, was it a coincidence or someone's prank? But that cord from the Venetian blinds certainly looked like a noose. Rifkin refused a chance to speak up in court.
Joel Rifkin, do you wish to be heard? Is there anything you wish to say to the judge before sentence?
No, it's time.
But earlier, his attorney had filed a 17-page motion laboriously handwritten by Rifkin, claiming his guilty verdict should be set aside because the prosecutor acted improperly and the defense expert witness was incompetent. Judge Wexner denied the motion. Prior to sentencing, prosecutor Fred Klein called Rifkin a, quote, killing machine and read a letter from the victim's mother, Cheryl Bresciani.
I miss my daughter Tiffany very much. I yearn for her. Nothing seems to relieve this agonizing pain.
Margarita Gonzalez knows that pain. Her sister, Jenny Soto, is another one of Rifkin's alleged victims.
How do you feel today about it?
I feel relieved.
You feel relieved?
I feel much better. I know it's not bringing my sister back or none of these other girls back, but at least this guy, they could rest in peace now because he didn't get away with it.
Rifkin still faces murder charges in Suffolk County, New York City, Brooklyn, Queens, and the Bronx, where other bodies of his alleged victims have been found. So unless some deals are made, the admitted serial killer will be spending a lot more time in courtrooms as well as in jail. Reporting from the Nassau County Courthouse, I'm Kyung Yoon, Fox News.
That was the news then.